Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am the Omni viewer, and I'm here to do another quick little unscripted video, hopefully quick, about a trailer that came out recently. And believe it or not, it isn't the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 trailer. Not that I didn't like that trailer, I did like it and I really want to see that movie, it looks great. But what else do you expect from Marvel these days, right? Of course it's gonna look great. No, I'm more interested in talking about the other trailer that came out that will be connected to a shared cinematic universe. Maybe. If it does well. And that would be The Mummy. Yes, they are remaking The Mummy, and I'm completely understanding if you've forgotten that, because it was announced a while ago, and then we've heard almost nothing since it was announced The Mummy, the actual, character of The Mummy would be a woman, and all of a sudden now we have a trailer. So I've been looking forward to seeing what this would be like for a while. Because, you know me, I like monsters. And I do like The Mummy. I mean, right here, the 3D representation of the original movie poster has been part of my display for a while. He's one of my favorite monsters. And I like ancient Egypt in general. It's cool. Cool visuals. Yeah. You like ancient Egypt too, I bet, in some way. But, anyway, this is yet another remake with a lot riding on it. Because, like I said, it's supposedly going to kick off a new shared cinematic universe. This time revolving around universal monsters as opposed to superheroes. Forget about that last-minute addition they put at the end of Dracula Untold. In fact, forget Dracula Untold. You don't need to see that movie. I still don't know if... I can talk about Dracula Untold another day. Anyway, this is supposedly going to be the start of a new shared cinematic universe, if it does well. If it doesn't, it's probably back to square one again. But they're clearly setting that up, because there's that tagline they have from Russell Crowe's character, who I'll get to in a minute, where it says, "Welcome to a new world of gods and monsters." That's clearly setting up that this is one part of a much bigger thing. I don't know how much of that is going to play into the movie. I don't know if they're going to be saying, well, this is mostly a standalone, but we're dropping hints here and there, or if this is going to be like Thor or Iron Man 2, where it's half set up for other movies and half its own thing. We'll see. Though, apparently, I checked IMDb, and it says that Russell Crowe is playing Henry Jekyll. As in Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde Henry Jekyll, who, interestingly enough, isn't a universal monster. He always gets lumped in with them. Jekyll and Hyde is always considered a universal monster, but he's not. They're not. Jekyll and Hyde aren't universal monsters, however you choose to say it. The movies made from that period, that even though they're from the same time, same style, they were made by MGM. Only Universal movie Jekyll and Hyde ever appeared in was the Abbott and Costello one. Make of that what you will. But anyway, doesn't matter. He always gets lumped in with them. Universal apparently has become convinced they have him too, so that's what they're doing. So that'll be interesting, and he seems to be playing a big role, based on the trailer, because he knows who the mummy is, Princess Amenet. I hope I remember that correctly. Yeah, it's Princess Amenet. And he seems to be like... He seems to have a connection. They don't really tell us much. May as well address the really big change they've made, which is that the mummy this time is Princess Amenet, not Imhotep, who is either a priest or a counselor or whatever he was throughout movies, the previous movies, or Karif was the one that they did after him? I don't remember. Those movies weren't as good though anyway. But yeah, a traditionally male movie monster is now being portrayed as female. And I hope to God this does not result in another Ghostbusters debacle, because I don't want to go through another year of that. I really don't, seriously. I don't think it matters. They mummified women just as much as they mummified men back in ancient Egypt. So please just run with it, okay? Let's wait until we've actually seen the movie to determine whether or not it was a bad idea. It is an interesting idea, though, because I remember the news being that they had two different treatments of the film. One that was the traditionally male mummy, and one that was female. And I don't remember how they said they were going to determine which one they'd use. I mean, I guess they just figured the time was right, I don't know, but they ultimately wound up going with the female version. So that'll bring about some interesting changes if they do it right. Actually, it's interesting because traditionally the mummy, as portrayed by a male actor, is a romantic figure. He's motivated entirely by his undying love for a woman who was reincarnated over the years, or maybe just he thinks is reincarnated. It's always... Pardon the vehicles going outside. Anyway, it's always kind of ambiguous. So that doesn't seem to be the case in this one, which is interesting. I mean, if there is a love story involved with this female mummy, they didn't show it at all in the trailer. She seems to just be sort of the power-hungry villainess, whichever the term would you choose to... Forget it. So this one just seems to be power-hungry, Princess Amanette, and that could be an interesting inversion, again, if they do it right. But I think the main thing people are going to be debating about whether or not we should be worried about this movie is the fact that it seems to be a combination of action and horror. Because, I mean, not just the fact that it's Tom Cruise in it, but the trailer also really puts a lot of emphasis on the action. There's the pulse-pounding white-knuckle airplane crash that takes up the first half, and there's scenes of London being destroyed in this wild storm in the second half. It seems like it's, like I said, going for action horror. And action horror is also really, really hard to do right. Because... I mean, once you give the protagonist a chance to fight back against the monster, like to somehow put him on equal enough footing, I guess, not necessarily exactly equal, but once you give him that ability, or her that ability, suddenly the tension is kind of cut, because part of horror is supposed to be that sense that you can't fight back, at least not without, like, really doing some extravagant stuff, like, well... We can discuss all that another day. But, not that it can't be done right. Action horror can be done right, but it takes a really, really specific kind of discipline in order to do it right. And I'm sure some people will say, well, The Mummy isn't an action movie. Although the 1999 version with Brendan Fraser and Arnold Vosloo, that was an action movie, but that was also... more styled to be a pulpy adventure Doc Savage kind of film than it was meant to be an actual horror movie, so it can get away with that. I don't care what Dog Walker says, that movie was good. But anyway, as far as this one goes, well, it could be a problem. They could be trying to say, look, we can make Marvel movies too, look at our enormous special effects action set pieces. But actually, having watched the trailer a couple times by now, I see hints that it could be going for actual true horror. Or at least that good mix of action and horror. Even the, let's start with the airplane scene, because that's what comprises most of the trailer, the first half anyway. That, yes, it's an action scene, but it also conveys a kind of real-world horror, because it's a plane crash. I mean, if horror is all about taking control away from the protagonist and watching as they try and struggle to regain that control only to realize they can't, plane crash is perfect. For real-world scenarios anyway, because you have no control at all in that. And they really do convey that sense of helplessness, I think. In the brief flickery amount of space they do it. But that's just one sequence, of course. There are other things that convey a real sense of atmosphere, potentially. Like that shot of the birds coming towards the plane, that huge flock of them, like a cloud almost, or the shots of the sarcophagus being lifted up out of the ground past that giant stone face, or even the sarcophagus itself looks really kind of unsettling in design. Not ancient Egyptian, certainly, not traditional ancient Egyptian at least, but it has that sort of thing that you look at it, the design, and you think, what? Like, I need to know what that's about. So, and that's another part of horror, that initial curiosity to figure out what it is, and then realizing you probably shouldn't have gone looking. So, then again, the trailer doesn't give us too much in that front. It could just be that they're trying to emphasize the action in order to emphasize the Marvel connection, I guess you could call it. Try to make it look more like a traditional summer tentpole film than a horror movie. But I'm holding out hope, I guess I will say, because there is a way to do it right. And I don't ever want movies to fail. It would take a lot for me to want a movie to fail, I should say, but most of the time, I want them to succeed. I know this is yet another remake that, if it succeeds, will spawn a whole host of other remakes and sequels, and people say they inundate the cinematic landscape. I don't care. I like monster movies. I'd like to see more monster movies. I'd like to see new things done with monster movies. And The Mummy could potentially do that, and it could potentially start a new franchise that could see monsters portrayed in different lights. Not the Dracula Untold kind, God forbid. So, yeah, basically, I am intrigued. I think that's a neutral enough thing. I'm not, like, super excited like I am for Guardians of the Galaxy, but I didn't watch this trailer and think, oh, that's not good. I'm intrigued. I'm very middle of the road, want it to succeed. I'm prepared for it not to, but want it to. You see where I'm going. I will be seeing it in theaters to see how it turns out. So, there you go. 2 monster movies coming out next year that I'm looking forward to. One of them with a giant and one of them with an ancient power. Both of them, interestingly, originating in the 30s. Probably just coincidence. Anyway, those are my thoughts. What did you think if you saw the trailer? Are you looking forward to it? Would you rather it stayed closer to the original or maybe closer to the Brendan Fraser version? Do you just not care? Please, let's get a conversation going. Leave a comment, do something. But anyway, time for me to return to the desert sands. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer signing off.